30% of the U.S. adult population suffers from insomnia. 10% suffer from chronic or severe insomnia. This, according to the National Center of Biotechnology Information. Mollie McGlocklin suffered from this very problem for years, and she set out on a mission to discover why she wasn't sleeping and her body's response. So after years of research and study, she started her own company called Sleep is a Skill, where she helps people optimize their sleep through technology, accountability, and behavioral change. She joined me this week to discuss the concept in greater detail and to provide all of us with a blueprint on how we can get a good night's sleep. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. McLaughlin began her remarks by peeling back the onion on how her company works and providing some insight on why this issue is so personally important to her.
Oh, absolutely. So Sleep as a Skill was created to really solve my own problem around sleep, where for many years I just thought of myself as a night owl, just kind of burning the candle at both ends, but I didn't think it was much of a problem until I experienced my own kind of experience with insomnia. And when that happened, everything changed for me with my prioritization with my sleep, and then really going down the rabbit hole to discover what would be necessary for me to heal my sleep naturally without, taking kind of sleeping pills or all kinds of external things. So in doing that, it changed my life. Now I sleep better than I ever had before, and continually just really gamify this area around sleep. And so now I work with other people to help improve their sleep through that blend of technology, accountability, and behavioral change. And it's really important to me that people feel supported along the way on this, because for me, I just at the time felt very alone. I was actually traveling internationally, couldn't speak the language. And I just felt like I was just in this weird world of not sleeping by myself. And so to support others in that journey of, because there's a lot of behaviors that we really get up under in order to improve our sleep. And a lot of those happen during the daylight hours. So that's the big difference that I was really looking to my sleep wasn't working and when my efforts weren't kind of yielding the results that I wanted. I was trying to just really attack the nights. And it turns out that in the world of chronobiology, there are so many things that we can do during the day that can make a difference with our sleep and also our life. So it's a really cool and rewarding area.
And tell me, what's the most rewarding part for you once you help people realize that they can get a quality night's sleep? And what gives you the most satisfaction running your business?
Oh, great question. So the most rewarding part for me, I think, is when people really begin to restore that confidence in themselves and in their body and in their results with their sleep. So when they really start seeing, oh my God, they'll send me, because we have all kinds of technology that they're using to track their sleep. So I'll get screenshots sent over. Oh my God, I got my first, good night of sleep. I got my first, whatever, 92 on whatever tracker we might be using. I got my first full, uninterrupted night of sleep. I got my heart rate went down while I was sleeping. my respiratory rate lowered, all of these sort of things. So that that confidence that they were missing, because sleep is really can be for many people occur as a performative act where like it's almost it can be akin to levels of stress where like public speaking or something, where you just think that you're not good at it and I got to survive this thing. Whereas when they start realizing, oh my God, I can actually, yield those results that I'm looking to get. And look, it's stacking and my efforts are paying off. So when we see kind of that like light bulb go on for people, that can be a really big moment, because then they're willing to do what there is to do from a behavioral standpoint to keep this going in their lives.
Fantastic. Now, when we look at Science Daily, they recently released a study that said 1 in 4 Americans at some point will develop insomnia
Mm,
um, uh, every year. So I'm just
yes.
wondering your thoughts on the study itself and your top 3 ingredients to a great night's sleep.
Yeah, great question. So it's really hard to quantify this question around insomnia and the levels of sleep deprivation that people are really experiencing, because also a lot of people have a fogginess around their real results with sleep. There are many people that might have oh, I sleep fine. And then they get a polysonogram and they turn out they have mild, moderate, or severe sleep apnea, and they might not have even had any understanding of that. Other people might, have it that their sleep is okay, fine, but then when you compare it to others, oh my God, it's so there's so many areas that we can improve in this. So one, sleep is one area that I think is grossly represented as far as what people are actually getting, particularly in the 21st century. So, because before really Edison, before we were able to augment our days and have electricity 24/7 and really create a 24/7 living environment in which we were off of the rhythms of nature. Uh, since that period, things have really gone awry with our sleep. So I would absolutely wager that that is not off the mark, if not even lowballing it as far as the numbers with insomnia, and particularly with where we're at right now in our planet with the levels of stress that people are under with certainly the pandemic, but also all the things that go along with that, financial insecurities, when we're not feeling safe, or that we have a future that's kind of guaranteed or certain for us, then we can certainly, one of those areas that can be impacted is sleep. So I think it's unequivocal that many of us will encounter periods of those kind of sleepless periods in our life. And then in addition is the concern of that chronic sleep deprivation that people just begin to think is like the new norm.
Now, our friends at Fortune magazine tell us that a lack of sleep can cost the U.S. anywhere between 410 and 411 billion dollars each year. So, can you tell me your perspective on the importance of how a good night's sleep can affect our ability to make money and then live our lives at work as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big cost on a number of, I would make the argument that you're hard pressed to find an area of your life that doesn't get impacted when you are deprived of sleep. So what I mean by that is if you run through your fitness results, your waistline, your ability to kind of keep yourself fit and healthy, your relationships. We know that sleep deprivation can really impact our some of those neurotransmitters that help ensure that we have kind of mood stability. Our general lifestyle, our are certainly on a biophysical level, our cardiovascular health, our brain health, our restorative. I mean, all of these areas are impacted, and then certainly in the area of costs for productivity, it's huge. So there are just many studies that point to when people are sleep deprived, and then we give those people tests, and from that place just their error rate increases. Overall, when we are able to ensure that we have that consistent sleep, uh, things like cortisol lower at the times when we want them to be lowered, and have kind of optimal kind of arcs throughout the day. But if cortisol is kind of raging at the wrong times, your ability to kind of focus and get the things done that you want to get done, and then relax at the time that you want to relax so that you can get that good night's sleep, can absolutely kind of go off the rails. And unfortunately, with sleep, it can be a real snowball effect where we kind of get off track for a little bit, and then the body really thinks like, oh, something's wrong, there must be a reason. Almost from like a tribal perspective, there must be a reason that we're not sleeping. Maybe we need to stay awake, maybe we're under attack, maybe what have you. So it's surging more cortisol, and then it kind of just keeps snowballing from there. So unless we really get up under it, when it's kind of starting to get off course, it can just be much more challenging to bring ourselves back to that homeostasis. And of course, the body wants that homeostasis more than anything. It wants to be able to get that rich sleep, but it just can take something to do that.
And I'm just curious, for anyone that's struggling to get a good night's sleep and has tried the traditional methods of trying to get back to sleep, what are your tips for someone that says, I work a lot and I have a family and I have trouble turning off my brain at the end of the day? What would you say to that person?
Great. Yeah, because it's such an important question, because that's probably one of the number one things that when people are coming to sleep as a skill, it's like, I can't shut off my brain. It's like this record player going again and again of like just these same thoughts, and I cannot get them to stop. And it can be so frustrating for people. So there's a couple of things. In order to kind of shift back um, our circadian rhythm. And again, for those that aren't familiar with circadian rhythm, it's simply around a 24-hour rhythm that as human beings we are on. We are diurnal creatures, meaning that we are meant to be active during the day and at rest at night. And so as a facet of that, it can take time to kind of get all of those functions working. So the reason that we want to have that kind of consistent bedtime and awake time is not just, because we're trying to like be good or kind of check off that box. It's because it really creates a cascade of hormones that are released at the times that we're looking to have them be released. And what that sets us up powerfully for, so that consistency is going to actually help us with that hyper aroused brain activity at night, because then we can help produce the levels of melatonin that are necessary in the evening, and lower those levels of cortisol so that we're not all stressed out, or because how easy is it to fall asleep when we've got anxiety, or we're in a state of anxiety. So instead we want to be shifting over to that melatonin in the evening. Big portion of that is light. Cannot be underestimated how important light is in this conversation. So what you want to really do is make sure that you have ample amounts of darkness in the evening that many of us are devoid of. Many of us don't have that because there's so much faux light nowadays. So we want to be a little bit deviant and outside of the bell curve. And when the sun sets, really lower that light significantly. So if you want to do things like candles, fire, that sort of thing, great. If you want to get biohackery, you can do some red lights, that sort of thing. But ultimately, we want to get those lights down. So why do we talk about that in the conversation around hyperactive brain states? It's because when there's a light present, that tells the body, okay, it's night. We got to start downshifting the brain, those stressors, and actually begin to calm down and produce more melatonin. Melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness. So we want to have that darkness present so that we can actually fulfill on that goal of getting that sleep. If you're not doing all those things, which many of us aren't doing, we're staring at our smartphones, lots of blue light emitted.
I know I'm
Laptops.
guilty of that. So
Yeah, we all are. Totally. It's so addictive. It's like a little slot machine, right there for us. And then of course, being bathed in blue light from TV or what have you, it's just sort of very normal nowadays. So we actually have to think a little bit and set ourselves up powerfully on the front end, but then on the back end, then we're able to actually over the long term, have this be very automated. Like I don't think much about it now in the different spaces we're in, because we set ourselves up with those lighting systems and blue blockers, all of that stuff. So that will really, really help with the brain really kind of calming down. And then, of course, there's some fundamental things we want to look at. If people are having the same sort of stressors that are going again and again, we want to see what some of those are and how can we address those during daylight hours so that your brain can kind of just relax. It just wants to know, like, okay, are you going to handle this or no? Which back when I was having my sleep issues, my brain couldn't count on me to handle the things that I was stressing about, because then it would know, then I might just like, okay, the next night I'm going to still have the same problems. So instead, for me, really, in order to have that breakthrough, I really had to turn my life really upside down and really deal with some of the things I wasn't dealing with, create consistency and discipline around the bedtime, wake times. But in doing that, it gave me such freedom and levels of health and vitality I never thought possible. So it can be a really, it can take something, but it can be really, really rewarding. The other thing that you can do if you are having that hyper aroused brain state is look at your meal timing. If you're eating late, that sends a confusing signal to our circadian rhythm, because it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're eating, so I guess we're still got to produce energy, we got to be up. And so that can be another confusing signal to the body, and to limit the amount of melatonin produced, but also it's raising your core body temperature, which we're looking to not do in the evenings. So just moving your last meal back a little bit earlier can really help with that problem.
I got two more for you, and then we'll get you out of here. The first one is I want you to react to one more study. The Harvard School of Medicine recently released a study that said 3 to 5% of Americans can suffer obesity because of a lack of sleep. So I'm just
Yes.
wondering if you could respond to that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Insulin, blood sugar, sleep, it's a very interconnected relationship. And, I mentioned how sleep as a skill is about combining technology, accountability, behavioral change. And one of the things that we'll often have people do is wear continuous glucose monitors along with sleep tracking. And with the continuous, even, these are not people necessarily that are dealing with any pre-diabetic situations or anything. They're healthy people, they exercise, they whatever, but they put on those continuous glucose monitors. I wear them as well. And what you discover can be so eye-opening. Your body is looking for that quick hit of energy when that glucose is up. So it's going to want all the things that we know we probably shouldn't be having. And so those processed foods, those sugary items, whatever, that are going to have that high glucose glycemic index. So when that happens, that further creates that snowball effect that we were talking about, because now you're getting the big swings. And whenever we have the swings in blood sugar, that can be a big problem also for anxiety. And many of us that have sleep issues are often dealing with some kind of latent anxiety at different, not always, but that can be a really common component. And one of the symptomology of having that really unstable glucose are feelings of anxiety, and fatigue can really get all messed up. You can get really tired during the day, like when some people have a big old meal for lunch and then they just need a nap. And all those things confuse our circadian rhythm, because we wouldn't have really been managing our sleep like that in the past. So, as far as our ancestors. So what really can really help is starting to dial in, what am I eating throughout the day, really eliminating as much as possible things like grains and dairy and sugar. All of those can kind of upset our that workability with what we're trying to achieve with sleep, but certainly in the glucose area, that the grains and sugars specifically can send things off
Oh,
kilter. Also, leptin and ghrelin are two big elements that get out of whack when we're not sleeping. And those can really, so we're eating, but we're still hungry. So that can be a real concern. So one of the things to do is to really prioritize that sleep, so it's not such a challenge to bring all that online.
and then my final question for you has to do with what would be your final message or sort of sales pitch to someone that says, I have this under control, and I just need to have a little bit more of inspiration on how to get a good night's sleep. What would be your parting message to people that are searching for answers on how to get a good night's sleep?
Yeah. So one, yay, celebrating that you are looking to improve your sleep, because not everyone's doing that. So that's a big accomplishment right there. And so one, just having the one is great. Two, I really encourage people to step into that mindset that sleep is a skill, and certainly in our 21st century, because there's so many things that are kind of can nip away at our ability to have that unique, not unique, that innate consistent sleep schedule. So if we're stepping into knowing the context that this is a skill, then okay, if it's a skill, then all I need to do is begin to learn more of it, and really start from a blank canvas and then begin at sleep 101 and really understand all the fascinating areas and ways that you can improve your sleep. So from that place, with sleep as a skill was created so that we can have a kind of clear place to go so that you can learn all the things that there are to learn. So we have a weekly newsletter every Monday that gives you all the things that I'm a very obsessive personality, clearly, and it will basically go through all the things that I'm obsessing in the world of sleep each week so that you have all kinds of resources at the ready. And then we also have a downloadable PDF called the Optimized Bedroom that you can get for free. And then that can help you really set up your environment to pull for great sleep, and give you lots of information right there to begin with. And then if you are still struggling from that point on, because for some people that could make all the difference in the world, I also really suggest people get the Aura Ring, spelled Oura. I have no affiliation with this company, but it can be a great place, at least right now in 2020, to really establish where you're at with your sleep and your health, because it can really reflect that conversation we had about what eating late and the types of foods, how that impacts things like your heart rate throughout your night, the respiratory rate, your body temperature, your HRV. So all of those things are things that I would suggest. And then if you're still struggling, that is also the reason that Sleep is a Skill is created, so that we can help support people so that they're never feeling alone when they are really looking to take on this area of sleep and get, kind of the support and community that they need. So we have online training courses. We have a podcast called the Sleep is a Skill podcast. So lots of things to make it, no matter where you're at, lots of free things available there. And then if you're looking to have even further accountability, then we can also set you up with either the course or one-on-ones.
Fantastic, Molly. I want to take a few seconds to thank you for joining us today and helping us all get a better night's sleep. Thanks so much for your time and for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and just such a kind of wonderful experience. Great questions. And I'm grateful to be connected with you. So thank you so much.
Fantastic.